Yeah, we're live. So, okay, hey guys. I'm finishing off today by by doing another interview. Um, so my guest today is Brian, and Brian has actually appeared on the Ambw channel before, but that was for the learning Korean tutorials, which are available on the channel to watch. So you can pull this up if you're ever interested in learning some Korean. Um, but today I'm interviewing Brian face to face, live right now. So obviously, as per tradition on this channel, I always let the guests introduce themselves. So, Brian, why don't you talk about yourself? Introduce yourself for a bit.
Hello, guys. My name is Brian. I am Korean. I was born in Korea, but I was raised in California. I currently stay in California, and right now I'm at Los Angeles. And I am an actor and a film crew member, both in LA and Northern California Bay Area.
Excellent, excellent. Brian, so obviously, like you just said, you know Korean. You can speak. You're fluent in Korean. Um, so can you speak a little bit more about? I guess I know a lot of people watching will be very interested to learn a little bit more about your culture. That culture. So for instance, I guess for you, like, what are you? Let's see. What would be? Yeah, my first question would be to you. What about the Korean culture sort of stands out to you? You know what I mean? I know it's sort of worded a little bit awkwardly, but just in general, what are some of your favorite things from the music to the food to the locations to etc. etc. Yeah.
Well, music, of course, K-pop. K-pop is popular with BTS and Blackpink, but I also tend to listen to Korean music there like long time ago, like 2005, around the era. For example, SG Wannabe is a good group, and Big Bang, those those nostalgic singers. I tend to still listen to those. And food, oh yeah, food anywhere in Korea is great. It's like fried chicken, aka Yangnyeom chicken, awesome. Of course, when I was in Korea, the difference between Korea and United States is that Korea already has McDonald's delivery system. Unlike US, they had Uber Eats. They launched Uber Eats like a few years ago, but Korea already established the delivery systems. It was very convenient. Um, of course, Itaewon international is an international district where not only you'll enjoy Korean food, but also international food like Russian, Turkish, etc. So I enjoy going to Itaewon.
Um.
What was other questions?
Yeah. So I had a question, and this is gonna be like I guess I'm sort of asking on behalf of sort of on behalf, I guess, of like a lot of the people watching, because I know that there are a lot of women that watch this channel. Last time I checked, it's like 67%. My audience is comprised of 67% women, so that's a lot of women that's watched this channel. But I think that's great, and I know a lot of them have asked me, hey, I'm single. I'm a single woman. You know what I mean? I'm looking for, I want to date an Asian guy. I want to date a Korean guy. Right. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the only question. The question is, where do I meet Korean men in the U.S.? You know what I mean? Or just any Asian guy, right? And I usually tell them, okay, you can usually meet them at school. You know what I mean? Or maybe in like boba shops or Panda Express, any Asian restaurant really. But I mean, obviously, I'm not sure how much success that would actually they would actually have with that. So, asking another person from your perspective, where places would you say for these women to go out and meet like Asian guys,
Right now,
Korean guys, any guy?
to meet any guys, I would say like, of course, you don't want to. It's hard find Asian men in like North Dakota, South Dakota, so not really there, but California, Seattle, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Seattle, or Houston, Texas. So you're more likely to find like Asian men in those areas that I just mentioned, but also it's also easy to find Asian men in universities, especially like universities in New York, California, Washington. It's like, for example, I went to UC Davis, and UC Davis has a lot of Asian men. So UC Davis, UC Irvine, UCLA, and other Cal States. It's easy to find Asian men in those schools, and also like a lot of Korean or like Chinese boba shops, Korean cafes. That these are all good dating spots too.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure a lot of women watching this, whether on the live or on the replay, will appreciate that advice. So Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, your life, right, and growing up for you? Like, actually, no, that's kind of a boring question. Let's get right down to it. What you talk about, if you don't mind, you don't have to go too specifically, but like about your dating life in general and how that has been for you, especially what I mean here, like growing up in U.S. or like college or recently, anything like that. Like, what has your experience been like with that?
Well, personally, for me, dating life, I never really got to find a date of my own yet because I was busy working and school. But of course, I was slowly not we weren't in a dating level, but like kind of conversing well with the girl I know. Kind of we became like best friends, BFF, but not like boyfriend girlfriend yet. So I'm kind of like just talking about with a girl. She calls me all the time to talk about her mood, her what's like her recent updates. So that gives me a bit of company. And other than that, my dating life is just pretty much simple. And also not just that, because this girl keeps not keeps but calls me sometimes. My housemates and my coworkers are often like, "Oh, your girlfriend again?" Just teasing me like that. But that's a funny story right there. And other than that, and also like because I'm an actor and a film crew member, I of course I know like people from different places, and so that's why like it's interesting. Like I get to meet other women, converse with other women, and pretty much yeah, that's it.
Excellent, excellent. That's great. So Brian, like, what do you think about? What is your thoughts on why Korean culture is so popular now? In the U.S. Like, why is K-pop so popular? Why are K-drama so popular? Like what I mean, what about it? You know what I mean? What is the appeal? Because like I'm Asian American. I'm not Korean or Korean American, so I'm really like an outsider to all that. So I was just wondering, like, as you, because you are obviously you are an actual Korean, what is your take on how K-pop, or just not just K-pop, like Korean culture in general, has sort of influenced pop culture in the U.S.
Yes, it's because Korean culture is. If you look at all these K-pop members, they all have light skin, often I have to say the word feminized, especially men being feminized, and they put a lot of time and effort and investment into choreographing all these dance moves and singing, a lot of practicing. So other audience can see that they put a lot of effort, time in it, and a lot of investment. And the music style is also unique, which other people from different cultures see it as, wow, this is different. It's like out of the normal. So that's out of the normal zone. So that's why it keeps appealing to people. That's why it's a lot. And also with globalization and internet, that's why it can spread quickly and faster. And also with YouTube and Facebook, social medias.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's good to know. Let's see. So we have a comment here from Sophie. And she says, I had a Korean boyfriend. He was a nice man, but his family strongly disliked the idea of him being with me in non-Korean. He ended up ghosting me, probably in an attempt to spare my feelings. Uh, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm sorry to hear that, Sophie. I know that. I mean, yeah, sometimes with different cultures or interracial relationships or whatever, sometimes it's harder, for the to get approval from the parents or whatever. I've dealt with that myself too. So it's you're definitely not the only one. But sometimes it's not even worth it, in my experience. So, what are your thoughts on that, Brian? And sort of, dating outside your race, or you know what I mean, like disapproving
So the
parents or
signal is
whatever.
weak.
Hmm? Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? You're kind of breaking up.
The signal is weak. Wait, hold on.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
adjust it real quick.
Okay. So,
Testing.
cool. All right. I think it's a little bit better. Um. So yeah, Brian, is your connection better?
So the signal was weak. So I mean, so you want me to respond to the comment of the Sophie Lee?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. When you respond to the comment.
Oh yeah. So uh, this is sad story, Sophie. Yeah, I appreciate you telling me this, Sophie. So apparently, there are many Korean parents that want their son or their daughter to marry a fellow Korean, so that way, due to because they want to have same culture and able to communicate with their soon to be like in-laws. So that's that, and they're also kind of they're also used to like Korean bloodline. So if there's someone foreigner comes in, that's when like there is a shock to it. So in the end, like they want the in-laws to be Korean, so that way they can communicate better and have similar culture. So they'll be familiar with that culture with each other.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that happens a lot. Like the parents just, I guess, sometimes more comfortable with it, or not. It just really depends. Like I said, dating is hard, and that's just one of the reasons why. Um, okay. So Brian, what is Let's see. What can I say? Well, on a more sort of general note, what would you say to, women or just people in general who are watching right now who might be interested in learning more about Korean culture, right? But maybe they don't have, maybe they live in an area like the Midwest, for example, that's not very diverse. Don't have a whole lot of access to, like knowledge and like different cultures and whatnot. Like, how would you say? What would you say, like, to people who are more interested in, learning more about Korean culture and whatnot?
So there are many answers to this. So, but my best answer is if you can visit other places, other states, I'll say travel to another state or other regions of U.S. where there's high Asian population, and visit restaurants and culture centers, and interact with the people there. And another answer is internet. Look up Google like different Korean cultures or other like that, like Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is a good answer because I'll say, and also like the nation, like Korean people's history is influenced by culture, and culture also influences history. So that's when researching about like Korean people and also the country of the origin, the history, researching history of the origins too. So learning about history helps learning about cultures, and of course interacting with people also helps with learning cultures, and also learning about food and trying different foods also help with learning cultures too. For example, like I'm Korean, but I have interest in learning about Albanian culture. So what did I do? I talked with an Albanian couple of Albanian people, and I've also visited New York, where there's significant Albanian population. Visit the restaurant there, and grocery stores there, and interact with them, and also study about history of Albania and the people through Wikipedia. So I'll say interact with people, visit places like restaurants, and study from the internet, especially Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. It's a very solid answer. And I know we have about 5 people watching right now. But if you guys, have questions for Brian, then feel free to type them into the chat, or anything like that. So yeah, this should be fine. So what else I can say? So Brian, I guess also this is a good question. So for oh, actually, you know what? Uh, well, hang on. We have a question from Codename Diva. It says, "Are there Asian men learning interest?" I'm assuming she says, "Are there Asian men interested in learning about African American descent culture, or is this one-sided?" And what is your opinion on that?
It depends on Asian men, and it depends on how much they want to learn. So of course, I'm open to learning about African and African American descent culture too. I study some through Wikipedia, but yes, some Asian men will be interested by it. Some Asian men not much. So it depends on other Asians too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I feel like especially that my answer to that would be, if you live in the U.S. I mean, it already happens. You know what I mean? Like, we get a lot of, you know, well, I don't know how else to answer this. I'll answer it like this. A lot of what three people learn and observe is taught through us through like media, right? Is like through TV and Hollywood and movies and all that stuff and music. Everything like that is fed through the media, which is why K-pop is so popular because it's like booming in the U.S. now. So you see a lot of women, not just women, but like people in general. Well, yeah, especially women. Like really, like taking a liking to K-pop and becoming interested in Korean culture and all that stuff. And I would say it works the same for also like African American culture too. Um, I mean, you also have a cultural appropriation, so that's sort of more on the negative side. But just in general, I feel like that is one way that a lot of people sort of quote unquote get their knowledge, even though it may not be like quote unquote knowledge or whatever. It's not necessarily educational or informational or anything like that. That's probably the most basic way people get their knowledge from. Um, so yeah. But no, Brian, I had another question for you. And my question is to you: if someone is interested in going to Korea, preferably the South Korea, not
Yeah.
North Korea. Don't go there. You go, yeah. If you visit South Korea, what are some tips or advice that you would have for them? Right, like where would you say, oh, here's a good place to go for foreigners who are traveling for the first time to South Korea. You know what I mean? What are some like really fun places that you have in mind?
Okay. So definitely visit like the capital of Korea, Seoul, but also like visit areas that are nearby Blue House, which is Korea version of White House. Like there are like these are like typical Korean neighborhood. They got from where I used to live nearby the president's house, so I'll see foreigners there. I'll see Korean restaurants there, and what else? And yes, like nearby, there's also small Buddhist area, this Buddhist area in the neighborhood. So if anybody's interested about Buddhism and check out Buddhism in Korea, that's the good place to go. It's called Insadong. So visit Insadong, and there's also, of course, just like a few minutes ago, I said visit Itaewon. Visit Itaewon because in Itaewon there is, like, if you're American, there are American influences in Itaewon, but there's also international stuff. So you'll not only get to taste, like, check out Korean culture, but also international culture. And another place to visit is Seoul Station, which is Seoul역. Seoul Station. Like, basically, Seoul Station it's like one of the biggest train stations in Korea. And what else? And also, if you want to visit or if you're brave enough, you can also visit the place called Panmunjom, which is a place like where it divides both North and South Korea. Tourists can come there whenever they're open. Like you'll see North Korean and South Korean soldiers look same face to face each other. So that's one of the tourist spots. And if you want to visit Busan, which is a port city of Korea, they got good beaches called Haeundae. It's pretty crowded, but it's fun. It's a unique type of beach vibe compared to other beaches in other parts of the world.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you. Um,
Oh, wait,
and
hold on. Don't forget to visit, and also if you want to visit more, visit Jeju Island. They got good tangerines there.
Yeah, no, that's all really great advice, and I know especially with Bud Light going on, certain travel restrictions might be being lifted. So I think some people might be happy to hear that because they might be interested in traveling to Korea. Um, Brian, have you heard of just off the topic? Have you heard of a dance studio called 1 Million Dance Studio in South Korea?
Oh yes, like I occasionally see their dancing to
Yeah,
Western songs in YouTube.
yeah, yeah. I've been watching them for a few years now on their YouTube channel. They're really really good. I was so inspired. I was so inspired by them that I created I shot and I put together my own short film that was inspired by their their dance routines, dance studio stuff like that. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But I'll actually yeah, I will share the link to that to this video too. Yeah, so Brian, what would you say? I guess this would be a good thing too. So obviously, a lot of women, especially women that we're talking about because the Ambw channel, a lot of women sort of might have these fantasies about Korean, about Korean culture and Korean men, especially all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because like I said, K dramas, K-pop, very popular. Um, but what are a few things that you can, like, rumors or fantasies, whatever, that are not true, that you know what I mean? You can sort of put to rest certain fantasies or rumors or myths about Korean men. Anything like that, like misconceptions or anything like that.
Okay, so apparently, like, you see Korean men like BTS, they all have lighter skin and like smaller faces, but in reality, like, many Koreans do not portray like them. Like, they can look close to as much as possible, but not all Koreans look the same. Like, as you can see, like, if you look at me, I have like a little bit some darker skin compared to other Koreans. Also, different Korean men have different personalities, just like any men in different cultures. Some can be rude, some can be nice, some can be awesome. So in the end, it all depends on their behavior, attitude, and lifestyles they have. What else? as of now, that's what I know of.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Sorry to kill a lot of the hopes and dreams of a lot of women watching, but you gotta keep it real here. We have an actual Korean person right here, right next to me. So I'm just kidding. No, I
Well,
was just kidding.
yeah, I had something. I forgot something.
Oh,
But
okay.
yes, lately a lot of Korean men want to date women from different cultures. So that's good news. So that's good news.
Yes, absolutely. So ladies, you're in luck. If you want to date a Korean man, don't give up. You know.
Don't give up.
Um,
Give it a
yeah,
try.
yeah. But also remember that they don't all look like BTS. Like that's just remember. Okay. Um, but no, I think no that I think that's great to hear. So Brian, also while I have you here, what are some, uh, you know, like we said, a lot of people might still be on the fence about whether or not they actually want to explore a new culture or explore a new country or whatever. They might be interested, but at the same time, they might be kind of doubtful or unsure. Um, so, what are a couple of reasons, or a few reasons, whatever you have, you can say for for women who are on the fence about visiting Korea? Like, why should they visit Korea?
They should visit. I personally think they should visit Korea so that way they can be they can learn something new, like different culture, different people. So that way this will help people get be more open minded to different stuff. And if they're more open minded, they have more ability and skills to interact with different people from different culture. So in the end, like this later on can help other people, or they can help you because they know your culture and you know their culture. So in the end, it's good to like interact so that way you'll be more open minded. You'll learn more about different people, and if you're a people person, if you want to learn about them, go for it. Like for example, me, I was raised in the United States, but when I visited Korea 5 years ago, it got me more open minded, and not only I was open minded to a different to just Korean people, but also I was also open minded with international people who came to the United States. I mean, who came to Korea. And do I regret traveling back to Korea? Absolutely not. It was a great learning experience for me. And also, you get to try different new foods.
Well, thank you, Brian. That was really enlightening. I hope that some women watching now will have more reason to actually go over there. When they can. So we have a couple questions from the chat. So, and I'm sure here she's referring to like Korean men that you said, some Korean men are, they actually want to date outside the race. So she asked, that's great news. Is there a particular reason why they are eager to date outside the race?
So because if they want to date outside of the race, it's because they want to know different cultures outside of their race and their culture. So they want to know more. They want to interact with other different cultures more. And of course, there is a bit of exoticism because when it comes to exotic, that's when it's 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 like out of their normal bubble. So they just want to learn more. They want to interact more. They want to also they want to be more open minded, and they also want to learn some cultures and languages and explore new foods.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you know what? That was a great answer. Hopefully, Diva, that answered your question. We have another question from Hockey Girl, and she asks, "How can Black women deal with Korean parents that don't approve?"
So I'll tell. So I have some answers to that, but it depends on other Korean parents. So that don't approve. So then I was one of my advice I can do is while you're with a boyfriend or husband or fiance, learn the language. More knowledge you learn about Korean language and the culture, more accepting they will be. But depends on the Korean parents, but more accepting they will be. And it's like everybody just treat men with respect. But basically, treating each other respect helps. So, and also appreciate Korean food. So more you do those stuff, more you learn about Korean culture and language, more accepting their parents can be.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I think that's great. And right now, I want to sort of take a break and point people to the language tutorials that because I know obviously Brian, you literally were just mentioning like just learn the language. So if you ladies or anyone is interested in learning Korean, well, like I said, we actually have several learning Korean video lessons for you on this channel, and I'm about to pull them up right now. So let's see here right now. I'm gonna pull them up. If you didn't know, well now you know. So, but yeah, this is something that me and Brian did a couple months ago. But as you can see, it's available on the channel. It's something that I put together, and there's Brian, and it's actually yeah it's sort of you're watching Brian teach someone who actually lives in Korea right now, but she's a foreigner because she's from America. So she in these videos, there's five of them, four or five of them I believe, and he's basically teaching her how to speak Korean. We start from basic Korean, easy learn Koreans, and then we gradually work our way up to more complicated phrases and dialogue and all that stuff. So you remember doing this, right, Brian?
Yes, I do.
Yep. And there's no audio again because I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to StreamYard, so I haven't figured out how to use audio yet. But that's fine because you can go to, like I said, I will put the links to these videos in the description of this video afterwards, so y'all can check it out. If you haven't checked it out already, I hope you have. I hope you will. Because it's actually really interesting. We've done Korean, we've also done Japanese videos, and we'll also do Chinese videos in the future. But I know especially Korean culture, everyone wants to learn it, and so what better way than to have Brian teach you? So we have four or five videos of this. So like I said, it's available to check out. Um, Here he's learning her how to speak Korean, and it's great. So it's great. So Brian, now that I have you here, though, why don't you give us a little preview of that? Would you mind sort of, I guess, let's start on something really easy and something really short because I don't want to keep you on all day. But can you teach the audience watching at home how to count to 10 really quickly?
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it'll be 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열. And also another way to say number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Excellent. Well, guys, like I said, there's plenty of that. There's plenty more of that. All you have to do is just check out, go to my channel and check out how to learn Korean. I think there's a whole playlist on there, but you can check it out along with Japanese lessons as well. So we're trying to be accommodating for everybody, and also inform, be educational as well as entertain on this channel. So if you guys are interested in that, go check it out. But Brian, so a couple more questions. And like I said, everyone watching, we have 11 people watching, so that's pretty good. So like I said, if any of you guys have any questions for Brian or anything like that, type it in the chat and we'll get to it. So let's see. So Brian, can you give us any advice, especially for all the women watching? as far as like approaching like Asian men or like Korean men, especially I mean, most likely, let's be honest here, most likely here in the U.S. Like, are there any tips or advice you would give, in order to help them sort of, lack of a better word, help to approach or pick up Asian men here in the U.S.?
One way to approach is so of course Asian men depends on Asian men, but it will be good if also woman approaches Asian man to like kind of first ask for questions, ask for directions, and just if you if you feel comfortable with that Asian man, just escalate more, just ask more questions, just get to talk to him, talk to you. If that Asian man is also interested in you, for example, and also if an Asian man is talking to each other in Korean, Chinese, or Japanese like that, maybe ask him, hey, what language are you speaking, and if they say like, oh, Korean, then say maybe 안녕하세요 or Chinese ni hao ma, and just say a few phrases that you know, and they'll be like, oh wow, interesting, she knows some languages. So that's one tip. So if you know some languages, that can be helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And, again, I know that that's not the first time you said this during this interview. So, ladies, definitely sort of, just emphasize the importance of, learning another, culture, or sorry, learning another language. It really does wonders a lot. It really does make communication, especially, with, like Asian men, or, like the Asian men who are, not American, just like foreign or whatever. It definitely helps. You know what I mean? And even if they are American, it definitely, I think it, would surprise them in a good way. It would definitely impress them. And so yeah, just consider that. So we have one question here from Tanya, Tanya F, and she says, "How does a woman approach an Asian man in the gym?"
uh, how does oh, one suggestion could be maybe approach an Asian man and maybe pretending you're doing squats and ask him, hey, can you watch me do squats? Like, am I doing this right? Or if you have a weight that's too heavy, then ask him, hey, can you hold this for me, please? And then let him help you, and then just conversation like, oh, where are you from? Yeah, I'm from, maybe like I'm from LA, or where are you from? Just kind of slightly ask those questions, escalate. And if you see him like constantly, like if you see him like all the time in the gym, then just always be like, oh, hi, just kind of hi, and then after a few days of saying hi, and then ask him, oh, I see you all the time, like, what's your name? And then go from there. Or then also maybe ask him, do you have an Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. So just one of the last questions I have for you is, uh, do you have any like K dramas in mind that you would recommend to people who are fans of K dramas, like that you think they would enjoy?
K dramas that I know of. Oh, Boys Over Flowers.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So let's see. So TC says, I guess Western women are too direct for Asian men. I would actually disagree with that. I
Yeah,
feel like
not
Asian,
necessarily.
yeah, yeah, I would honestly disagree with that. I would say that I think Asian men, most of the time, especially if they're not from the U.S. or America, that it helps to be more direct to them, because
Yes,
their communication, how they interpret it, and how all that stuff is very different from how they do it back home. So, but what do you think, Ryan?
I agree with you.
Yeah, definitely. So, no, TC, I think, yeah, like I said, just be as direct as you want. I think you might be talking about maybe American women coming on too strong. Maybe is that what you're talking about, or maybe if it isn't, oh well, I'm sorry, um, but okay. So, well, guys, I am going to let Brian go now. But before I do, is there anyone else that has a question really quickly? Type it in the chat. Now is sort of your last chance to get a word in really quickly while I have him here. Um, Brian, while I wait for any women stragglers or anyone to catch up, anything like that, if you have social media, where can people follow you on social media?
Instagram at Brian period John period 213.
Excellent, excellent. Well, guys, that concludes this interview. Then, thank you to my guest Brian for showing up again and doing this. I appreciate taking time out of your day to do it. Like you said, like Brian just said, if that's a social media, so if you want, follow him there. And again, I just want to say, everyone watching right now, this week is probably going to be the last week that I do these kinds of interviews for a while, um, because I'm trying to get monetized, and so the plan is once I get monetized, my focus will be on making short films for this channel as opposed to doing interviews. So I enjoy doing interviews, but not as much as I enjoy short films. So when that happens, things like this won't happen, or they'll happen very rarely. So, but I appreciate the support, and I hope that you guys keep watching because I love making short films, and I also like doing this. So we'll try to get everything in, and please continue to support the channel that way by watching, by subscribing, liking, commenting. Hit very important, guys. Hit that notification bell for notifications. Every time I upload a new video like this, you'll be notified. So please hit that bell. Don't. So four things, guys: like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. So please do it. Please, I would appreciate it a lot. It goes a long way if you want to help support the EMBW channel. Again, thank you to thank you to my guest Brian right here. I've taken time, and I hope you guys, you can check out the learning Korean language tutorials. There's like 4 or 5 of them. Check them all out on this channel. Check them all out, please, because we did them all for you guys. And you know what? Oh, hang on, before you go, Brian, one more question. I just saw this right here. So, are you into AMBW?
Yes, also yes, I am also into Ambw. Like I'm actually open to talking with actually girls who are black and white, black Hispanic. I like those mixed girls. Like for example, singer Tinashe and Jiheen Aiko. Yeah, they're pretty.
Janae Aiko is fine. Janae Aiko's a fine woman. But yeah, all right, man. Well, everyone, again, thank you very much for watching. Like I said, do those 4 things. Check out all the videos. Brian, do you have a YouTube channel?
No, I don't.
Oh. Well, maybe, hopefully, if a lot of people like this video and comment, maybe you'll be inspired to do it. But all right, guys. Well, we're gonna say goodbye for now. But yeah, so catch y'all later. Bye bye.